our turn to do what generations before us have done, guided by optimism and faith, to fight for this country we love, to fight for the ideals we cherish, and to uphold the awesome responsibility that comes with the greatest privilege on earth, the privilege and pride of being an American. So let's get out there, let's fight for it, let's get out there, let's vote for it, and together, let us write the next great chapter in the most extraordinary story ever told. Thank you. God bless you, and may God bless the United States of America. Thank you all.
Yep. That was the final couple of minutes of Kamala Harris's acceptance speech at the DNC just last night. I'm Fred Wellman, host of On Amongst the FP Wellman, here in my home studio. I literally just drove back from Chicago to do this show and upload it for you guys tonight because I had no internet there. It was a wild week. For those who follow me on social media may know, I spent the week at the Democratic National Convention in Chicago as a credentialed creator among 200 creators who are up there, independent media, which was an incredible experience. I'll talk about it more later in the show. It was a really unique experience. To try and consolidate all into one show, I'm sure I've made Matt's life very hard. I have so many clips and photos I wanted to show you guys. But I wanted to start with that finale, and hopefully you saw it already, and the powerful way it ended. And then I wanted to show you how Trump handled that just a couple minutes later on Fox News. And you can see, watch the faces of the anchors as Trump dials in to offer his pitch.
Beaten Joe Biden in a Democrat primary. I have no doubt about it. And they made it absolutely impossible for him. They made it that you have to get 60, 70% of the vote just to get in. And you know what?
President.
In the end, the Democrats did the same thing to Joe Biden. They threw Joe Biden out of the party.
And that's
they
why
did
we
the
saw a
same
different
thing
night
as they
tonight.
did to RFK.
Mr. President, thank you so
very
much
much, sir.
for the time. We
Okay,
appreciate
very
that
much.
live feedback.
Stay right there.
Thank
Live
you.
edition of Gutfeld is coming up. Thank you so much for joining us from Chicago. It's been a great week.
Good night.
Yeah, I had to rush him off for Greg Gutfeld Live, who made a bunch of short bus jokes and other rude misogynist comments in the show. Yeah, the Fox crowd doesn't really know how to handle that. And I had a couple of conversations about that issue as the week went on. But I want to go back to another part of her speech that I really enjoyed in the stands. So I was up in the stands in the press section, the 300 level of the arena. That meant we had good seats, although it was a little bit of a dogfight to get seats the last night. And it was so loud, it was hard to hear. I mean, believe it or not, I watched clips of the speech today so I could hear parts that I missed because of the cheering of the crowd. And this is a great speech. This part of the speech was about how she will be a president for all Americans.
I know there are people of various political views watching tonight, and I want you to know I promise to be a president for all Americans. You can always trust me to put country above party and self, to hold sacred America's fundamental principles, from the rule of law to free and fair elections, to the peaceful transfer of power. I will be a president who unites us around our highest aspirations.
There's a lot of high points to that speech. I could do a whole show just on that. I'm sure my friends at Midas Touch have already done that. But I want to give you a perspective of what it was like there. And not to do too many clips of what I saw, I wanted you to see what I saw in this 320 section of United Center in Chicago, Illinois, as the Vice President and Governor Walz stood with their spouses on the stage as the balloons dropped in the United Center. The big finale of 4 incredible days of speeches and gatherings, which I'll show you a bit of. And this was the finale of the show. cool to be here for this. It's so cool to be here. It was a cool experience in person. I think you can hear me talking about how amazing it was. You know, I got a chance to talk to a number of folks. It was hard. It was a really tricky week. You had to get studios or you had to talk in the hallway. It was really hard to talk in the hallway because it was so loud. I did videos that I threw out. My friend Ken Harbaugh from Against All Enemies here at Miles Touch hung out trying to figure out. So we got a couple of great conversations and a couple of old guests you may remember. One of the first people I ran into for an interview was my friend Chris Jones. And we had a great conversation about dirt road Democrats. I saw Abigail Spanberger, the Democratic nominee for governor. I talked to Congressman Jared Moskowitz, who I've been trying to get in the show forever. I got him in a hallway. I also got a chance to watch Wes Moore speak. If you know Governor Wes Moore of Maryland, I've known Wes since before either of us was anybody, I guess, way back in Baltimore doing veterans projects together. Now he's the governor of Maryland. Saw him, got a big hug out of him. He gave a terrific speech at the Veterans and Military Family Caucus, as well as actress Busy Phillips, who happened to be there. I had a remarkable time at Simon Rosenberg's Hopium event, where Simon gave us some words of positivity. And I met Sean Astin, the actor, which is I'll show you more of later. And then I met a couple cool people there. That's kind of our show. I want to kind of go through that. So you know what? Let's not waste time. Let's get right with the show. Welcome, welcome, welcome. As I mentioned, I am still Fred Wellman, host of On Democracy with FP Wellman. I have red eyes. I've got bags. I haven't slept for crap in a week. Got about 4 hours of sleep. If the DNC for creators, for at least for me, was a lot of running around. If you understood the layout of how this convention worked, what you saw on TV at the United Center was about 2.5 miles from the McCormick Place. McCormick Place is the convention center in Chicago. That's where my hotel was and where a lot of the daytime activities were. So we had events at the McCormick Center. Then you had to catch a bus or an Uber, which was really expensive, all the way over to the United Center to get into the United Center, which the first night took 2.5 to 3 hours. It got better as the night went on. I spent a lot of time sitting on buses. I spent a lot of time sitting in Ubers. I spent a lot of time walking. I think I got about 13 miles of walking in around the city of Chicago. Never once got shot or raped, contrary to what Donald Trump was telling you. But let's get right to the meat of this conversation. I really had a good time meeting some really incredible. I could have done 100 interviews, to be honest with you. But I did get a chance to sit down in one of the studios there in the United Center with my friend Chris Jones and talk about his work with Dirt Road Democrats, Vortex PAC, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, and all kinds of other topics. Here's my friend Chris Jones. I'm here with my friend Chris Jones, former candidate for governor of Arkansas, and now runs his own PAC, helping people. Chris, man, it's good to see you. Welcome to DNC.
It's really good to see you.
My first guest, by the way.
Yeah.
So, you know, Chris you've done a lot in Arkansas since leaving as candidate. I always joke, Chris is my favorite astrophysicist, reverend, real rocket scientist and pastor. Yeah. So but the real issue though in Arkansas is you've got a lot of rural folks. You're talking about a lot of dirt road Democrats. You've been doing a lot of dirt road Democrat things. Where are we at with that? How's it going?
Yeah, so it's both statewide and nationally. And first of all, always great to see you. Love having a conversation with you, buddy. So look, here's the deal. What we realized when I ran my campaign, I hit all 75 counties. Yeah. And went and talked to folks who hadn't seen a Democrat or a candidate in decades. Yeah. And so when you show up, then people change the way they engage with the political process. Yeah. That's what Dirt Road Democrats is about. So after Jamie Harrison's race against Lindsey Graham, he formed a PAC because he also realized that people are not engaging in the rural areas. Yeah. So he formed Dirt Road Democrats. Right. Of course, he got swept up in the DNC. Some job, right, while we're here. And he brought together Brandon Presley and myself to be the national co-chairs. Brandon ran against Tate Reeves in Mississippi, almost won. Here's the theory behind it all, that if we show up, we can close the gap, and it's really a 5% gap. Right. A 5% increase in voter turnout in some of these rural areas will break the supermajority like in Arkansas. Yep. We need 8 legislative seats to break the statewide supermajority. Yep. You know, Sarah Sanders is in our state. She's the worst. She's crazy. And she is like, literally. Yeah. And what we realize though, is that part of her power comes from the fact that she is unchecked. Yeah. Breaking the supermajority puts some checks on her. Yep. 5% increase is how we got gains in Georgia. We're gonna look to North Carolina and Virginia. So all these places need a 5% increase, and that'll come from rural areas.
And where's the first piece in the puzzle? Is it getting candidates?
Yes.
Is it organizing? I mean, I know I've been involved in Missouri, and the fact that a lot of the Democratic parties in these rural areas don't even have infrastructure of any kind, right? They haven't been organized in years. So where's your first step when you approach this?
It depends on where you're going, right? To your point. And in some places, there is some nascent, some small level infrastructure.
Yeah.
So really what you need to do is find candidates. In our case in Arkansas, when I ran for governor 2 years ago, we had the fewest number of statewide legislative candidates on the Democratic side in 2 decades.
Wow.
We got to work though. This cycle, we have the highest number. We're back up to where we were a little bit before.
That's pretty good.
Right. No, seriously. And so now we have an opportunity to break supermajority. So I think in this case, it's getting candidates on the ballot, but getting them on the ballot is not enough. You also have to support those candidates. Those candidates need financing and funding.
Yeah.
Those candidates need to be in the media.
Yeah.
We had a great message when I ran. Our issue wasn't the message, it was message penetration. Right? You helped me out a lot by putting me on your show, and I think that made a difference. Imagine if we can amplify and multiply that. Right. That's part of what Dirt Road Democrats is about.
I love it. And of course, Sarah's still there.
Sarah's still there.
Everybody's bugging you to run again.
Look. Go to Walmart, go to the gas station. They're like, what?
I can't imagine
I tried to tell you.
go.
But in all reality, she started out, she actually had an opportunity.
Yeah.
Because she had 100% name recognition. All the conservatives and the MAGAs loved her. And the independents and Democrats were like, okay. The independents were like, give her a chance. Democrats were like, well, what do we do?
Yeah.
She could have brought everyone together.
Yeah.
She had a 64% approval rating at the beginning.
Wow.
Right. It dropped to 48%.
Wow.
Because of how bad she is, because of her arrogance, because of the not having a check on her power.
Lectern Gate.
Which going to Europe.
Which is really the tip of the iceberg. Right?
Oh, man.
It's the entire the smell of impropriety, the smell of incompetence.
She bought an $8,000 Wi-Fi ice maker. Right. Now imagine somebody in Chico County, Arkansas.
Right.
If you gave them $8,000, it would change their year. She spent $8,000 on an ice maker that's Wi-Fi.
Wow.
So folks are ready for a change.
Yeah.
And we get there by doing the work now, Dirt Road Democrats, doing the work now, being on shows like yours, doing the work now, investing in rural areas.
Yeah, and that's the key. And it's blood, sweat, and tears. And my friend Jess Piper in Missouri talks about a lot, right? She's the original governor herself. And we talk about a lot of how she was just on Twitter saying, there's no candidates, there's no Democratic candidates. You know? So she was saying, like, when you guys criticize us for not, making the right choice, I don't have choice. Yeah. It's a bad Republican, worse Republican, better Republican. So it really is about having choice at every level. Yeah. And that does start too at school board and county council, doesn't it? So I think we forget that in the Democrats, right? We're always trying to win the Super Bowl. We've got to remember you got to go in the Little Leagues.
Right? Yeah. We need a feeder program.
Yeah.
And look, so once you get the candidates, here's what will help us get more candidates if we actually support them.
Right.
It's
hard.
Again, I'm not tooting your horn, but I am tooting your horn. No, because you've been open to bringing candidates who others will ignore onto your show. Yeah. It gives them a platform. Yeah. Now, even if they don't win, they feel supported. And if they feel supported, they'll tell someone else to do it. So
that's
it matters.
The key. I mean, raising awareness of who's out there and we have great candidates. I mean, we're seeing it here at the convention, right?
Amazing.
The bench is incredible right now, isn't it?
Yeah, the Republicans are shaking.
They are.
Our bench is deep.
Yeah.
So I'm loving it.
Well, that's great. I love hearing it.
Cool, man.
Well, where can everybody find out more information about all your many projects and learn more about what you're doing?
So what I did not talk about was Vortex PAC.
Yeah.
And that's to flip the 4 congressional seats in Arkansas. If you want to find out about that, go to Vortex, VORTEXPAC.com and learn what we're doing in Arkansas. If you want to know about Dirt Road Democrats, go to dirtroaddemocratspac.org and you'll find out about what we're doing. And look, man, I'm excited.
Yeah.
I mean, this convention has been phenomenal.
And it's the wave. I mean, it's and the funny thing about, I thought of you, and I'm so glad we ran into each other, literally, is you've always run this kind of positive, hopeful. That was your campaign was hopeful. Yeah. And it must give you great joy to see a national level campaign using almost the same message in a lot of ways, right?
Like unbelievably hopeful.
This has always been your approach.
That's why I wear the bee. The bumblebee, because I believe, and because you have to hope that things can change. I'm excited, man.
Well, we're on the right track. Man, thanks.
Thank you, bro.
Good seeing you, brother.
Good to see you.
Appreciate your time.
After I talked to Chris, he's doing some really good stuff, and there's a lot of important work to be done for rural Dems and for those in places like Arkansas. We talk about that a lot with my Forgotten Democrats work and all.
I'm also very interested in what's going on in Virginia. As you guys know, I lived in Virginia for over a decade. I've been involved in politics there with my friend Eugene Vindman. Abigail Spanberger is currently the representative for Virginia 7. Abigail is also now the Democratic nominee for governor of Virginia, and she's doing incredibly well. Is probably going to win and be our next governor of Virginia after Glenn Youngkin. One of the things that we're really dealing with a lot in Virginia and nationwide, but especially in Virginia that's going to be effective, very big, is Project 2025 and Agenda 47. And part of that is what's called Schedule F. And you've heard me talk about this in the show quite a bit. I really want to get Abigail's perspective on the impact of what Project 2025 would do to Virginia specifically and all the federal workers and contractors in that area. So I got a great chance to talk to her for about 10 minutes too. Here's my friend Abigail Spanberger talking about the impact on Virginia of what a Trump administration might look like. Representative Spanberger, governor candidate, I'm glad to have you. I know you've been talking a lot about, national security and other things, but I want to talk about Virginia. As you know, I lived in Stafford and in your district for a while. I'm helping the guy who's trying to take your seat, but you're running for governor.
Yeah.
One of the things we talk about a lot here at the convention, and you talk about a lot in your campaign, is this Project 2025 and its direct impact on Virginia.
Yeah.
And it is a direct impact because mostly, so tell us a little bit about that.
So whether it's Project 2025 or Agenda 47, which is Trump's agenda, put out on his website, if he's trying to step away from the disaster that is Project 2025, we know that the intent of a future Trump presidency is to put Schedule F in place. Right. We know it's an intention. We know he's willing to do it because he did it at the end of the last term, and of course, President Biden came in and reversed that effort. And what we know to be the case is that a Trump-Vance presidency would not just jeopardize federal jobs across the board, but J.D. Vance has said that they should fire all civil servants and replace them with, quote, our people.
Yeah.
And so when we think about it from a Virginia perspective, this is the livelihood. People who, engineers, doctors, lawyers, people with various different types of expertise who pursue a career in public service at government agencies across DC and frankly, across Virginia and across the rest of the country, and do it in service to our country, in service to our communities. And to now have a president once again threaten their jobs, threaten their commitment to that mission, it's certainly wildly damaging to the function of government, but it's the destruction of their livelihoods and, from a Virginia perspective, Virginia's economy.
Yeah, for the Commonwealth, I think we've talked about before, and my viewers of my show know my daughter has a store in Fredericksburg. Yeah. And when there's been government shutdowns before, it devastates those towns.
That's right.
You're not going to buy fancy soap. You're not going to get, I think you mentioned appliances, right? Yeah. So the Virginia economy directly tied to the large number of government contracts. And it's not just government employees, right? They talk about government contractors as well, don't they?
Well, and so that's the issue that's at play, right? When we've had government shutdowns in the past, previously when we were teetering towards a government shutdown, I was working directly with the Chamber of Commerce in Prince William County, just north of Fredericksburg, because the entire economy of that very large county outside of Washington, D.C., is impacted, not just when there is a government shutdown, or certainly not just in the case that many federal employees would lose their job, poof, and we would wait for them to find our people. But in fact, the entire community is impacted because if you're firing federal employees or you're shutting down the government, then related work that is supportive of that, be it government contract, doesn't happen. Right. And if you are someone, because you're a federal employee, because you're a government contractor, who is either not getting their paycheck or they think that they might not be, you don't do things like replace your dishwasher that's on the fritz, or buy a housewarming friend, gift for the friend who's moving.
Fancy soap.
The fancy soap. There's many reasons why one would buy a fancy soap, but if you don't think you're getting paid,
that goes off the list.
It's off your shopping list, and that's real. It's a real part of our economy, and it's a real part of the impact. And so, working with the Chamber of Commerce, certainly, across the state in Virginia, but specifically in the localities that I represent, to have various different small business owners come forward and talk about, they may not be the federal employee, they may not be the government contractor, but the downstream impact of this continued attack on federal workers is so highly detrimental. And you don't just recover from that.
No, it's those second and third order effects we talk about as national security professionals. It's not just the shot; it's the second and third order effects, and that's what's happening in this economy. I think the final piece for let you go, I know you got a lot going on, is veterans specifically. I mean, a lot of these federal jobs are veterans. The Commonwealth is probably one of the highest concentration of veterans, I think, in the country, if I'm not mistaken. And a lot of those are government workers. We know that over half of the VA and DOD are veterans, right? So this is going to have a devastating effect on veteran unemployment as well, won't it?
I mean, the idea that you would have a president who wants to just take jobs that require an expertise, whether that expertise was created through your military service or your expertise at the Department of Ag is through your course of study or your commitment to Virginia's producers or farmers across the country. The idea that we would have a president come in and say, no, we want to do away with this expertise. We want to do away with this nonpartisan, right? As a former federal employee, when I was a CIA officer, I was in a Hatch Act role. No politics for me. I was serving a mission, whether it was under President Bush or President Obama, right? I was serving a mission. And it's important to have, and there are many people who come into administrations as political appointees, and that is absolutely something that happens administration to administration, and in the current context, totally appropriate. But the idea that core workforce that are governed by mission and a focus on mission would be wholly disrupted and dispensed with to bring in people who are partisans, it would be so highly destructive to the focus and to the mission of each individual agency. To the reality that it would have such a negative impact on the livelihoods of so many Virginians, whom I'm proud to represent, and the Commonwealth's economy overall.
Yeah, well, we can't have that. Well, I really appreciate your time. This is an important key part, and we got to keep reminding people that this isn't theory. They've done it.
That's right.
They said they're going to do it. And for me, the most shocking thing is they've said some of the criteria may be as little as having given money to a Democratic candidate. That's some scary stuff. Well, anyway, here we are.
I'll agree with you completely.
Well, good luck. Keep up the good work, and
Thank you.
Keep an eye on the campaign.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Lumen's the world's first handheld metabolic coach. It's a device that measures your metabolism through your breath. And on the app, it lets you know if you're burning fat or carbs and gives you tailored guides to improve your nutrition, workout, sleep, and even your stress management. Not that I have stress in my life. Now, all you have to do is breathe in your Lumen first thing in the morning. You'll know what's going on with your metabolism, whether you're burning mostly fats or carbs. Then Lumen gives you a personalized nutrition plan for that day based on your measurements. You can also breathe in before you go on your workouts, before you go for a meal. You know exactly what's going on in your body in real time, and Lumen will give you tips to keep you on top of your health game. So look, your metabolism is your body's engine. We all know this. You probably learned this in health class, right? It's how your body turns the food you eat into the fuel that keeps you going. I've been tracking macros and nutrients and nutrition for years as I try to maintain my health as I age. Because your metabolism is the center of everything your body does, optimal metabolic health translates to a bunch of benefits, including easier weight management, improved energy levels, better fitness results, better sleep, better moods even, if you will. Lumen gives you recommendations to improve your metabolic health right in your hand. So if you want to take the next step in improving your health, go to lumen.me/Fred. You'll get 15% off your Lumen. That is lumen.me/Fred for 15% off your purchase. Thank you, Lumen, for sponsoring our show this week. We really appreciate you. And man, it's a great device. Hey, let's face it. After a night out with drinks, I do not bounce back the way I used to when I was in my 20s as a young officer in the United States Army, full of strength, where we drink all night, then go working out the next morning. And lately, it's been not as easy since I'm a grandpa now. That is until I found Z-Biotics Pre-Alcohol. Now, pre-alcohol is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by a PhD scientist to tackle rough mornings after drinking. And here's how it works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted to a toxic byproduct in the gut. It's this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for your rough next day. Now, pre-alcohol produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. Just remember to make your Z-Biotics your first drink of the night, then drink responsibly, and you'll feel your best tomorrow. Look, I won't lie. I don't hit the clubs anymore. I'm not that guy. But what I do is I take my partner and we go to outdoor concerts here in our town. We will sit down in the heat of the sun in the summer. We'll drink wine, we'll drink beer, and it kind of sneaks up on you. And the next thing you know, you're feeling a little bit under the weather. So I decided to give ZBiotics pre-alcohol a shot, and man, what a difference. Believe me, it is the real deal. So for vacations, weddings, birthdays, reunions, there's so much going on. Get the most out of your summer plans by stocking up on pre-alcohol now. So it's easy. Go to zbiotics.com/Fred to get 15% off your first order when you use Fred at your checkout. Pre-alcohol is back with a 100% money-back guarantee. So if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. So I'm going to go back to it again. Just make sure it's clear. Remember to head to zbiotics.com/Fred. Use the code FRED, F-R-E-D, at checkout for 15% off. Thank you, as always, ZBiotics, for sponsoring this episode and for the good times you help me continue to have.
Yeah, it's big, right? Project 2025 is no joke. It's real. And that's Agenda 47 as well. And Trump has said it in speeches. They're not going to try and give up getting rid of federal employees. Why do we know? He actually did implement Schedule F before he left office, and President Biden got rid of it as soon as he came in. Another great guest I wanted to catch a lot of while I was there before is Jared Moskowitz. As you know, Congressman Moskowitz is regularly appears on the Midas Touch Network. He's a great member of Congress. He drags the Republicans, and that's one of the reasons I want to talk to him. You know, after Michelle Obama's speech, and he and I kind of go back and forth at the beginning of this conversation about what she really said, but she really didn't say, when they go low, we'll go high. She did say, we'll go on the offensive. And if you watch the Congress, the House, especially the House under Hakeem Jeffries, they've gone on the offensive. And I had the privilege to grab Jared Moskowitz in the hallway and talk about what that looks like from his perspective and let him enjoy the fact that he's actually taller than me. I know it's hard to believe, but here we are. Here's Jared Moskowitz.
I had a chance to talk to you before, so I appreciate it. I know you're a reg on the network.
I am.
So, you know, the one of the things I enjoyed the most about this Michelle Obama speech specifically is I think she's given up on the whole when they go low, we go high thing.
I think what Michelle did yesterday is she was like, we're not going to get in the mud, and then gave it to them. But it's not that she got low. I think she went medium.
Right.
Okay. So and by the way, it's what's working. Go on the offense, right? You've seen it in committees in Congress.
Yep.
You go on the offense. Let's stop playing defense. Let's stop trying to reason and rationalize with them, right? Let's go on the offense. And you can see they don't know how to handle it. Right? They absolutely don't know how to handle it. They're snowflakes when it comes to dealing with them.
Right.
And look, use truth, use facts, okay? But you give it to them. And I think that has caught them off guard so much in Congress. And it's a different way for Democrats to communicate. I'm not the only one who's doing it.
No.
Jasmine Crockett, Robert Garcia, Maxwell Frost, Dan Goldman, Jamie Raskin, AOC, offense.
Yeah, and I'm an old soldier. And that's what I always say. We go on the offense, we push them back. You can see they're struggling to respond. And I think also what I love what we've done, and you guys started that, and now we see the president campaign doing it, is not keep responding to all their silly stuff. The Tim Walz stuff's a perfect example. We have our answer, it's done. Tim Walz is a really good man, isn't he?
That's what I'm saying. What I'm saying is stop going out there and defending. Pivot and hit.
Right.
Pivot and hit.
For 77 days, right? That's the big thing, isn't it? And that's, it's a sprint at the end.
But we're at halftime, right?
Yeah.
Like maybe we're up. It's halftime, we're in the locker room, we're up a point. It doesn't mean anything, right? We got to play the rest of the game, and that's the point. We got to play the rest of the game. This is a wonderful moment. We should enjoy it. But then we got to get back out there, and we got to do the work.
Yeah, and you know, football teams, units in the Army have morale. It does feel like our morale has gone up in the last 4 weeks. There's a momentum and enthusiasm.
There's no doubt about that. There's no doubt about that. You can see it in the volunteers signing up. You can see it in the fundraising. You can see it in some local elections that are starting to happen. You can see it in the polling. You can see it in the crowd sizes, which is the metric that Donald Trump uses.
It's very important.
Shout out to the AI team at Kamala Harris, crushing it with the fake crowd size.
There's 6 of us.
Yeah. I mean, so there's no doubt that there's been a sea change here.
Yeah, and that's the great thing. And you've been fighting that fight for the good fight. You hit them where it hurts. Let's talk about the weird thing. I mean, it's interesting how that's just gotten in their heads. And
no, you're weird. I'm not weird. You're weird.
Exactly. And
again, they can't deal with it. And one of look, Donald Trump is his own worst enemy. We've known that.
Yeah.
So unhinging him, getting under his skin works, because then he goes to his bad habits, which reminds the American people why he shouldn't be back as president.
Yeah, and I actually have Republican friends, and I live in St. Louis, Missouri. Needless to say, I have lots of Republican friends.
I have lots of Republican friends.
And what's fascinating is one guy's a VC, for God's sake. He's like, no, we can't vote for that guy. And what's interesting to me is we saw the debate, and we a lot of us watched our president have some struggles, but a lot of Americans, that was the first time they've really seen Donald Trump in a while. They're not very online like we are, don't you think? A lot of Americans saw a very poisonous, angry man with the same bit, didn't they?
Yeah, he's got to get back to Hannibal Lecter, the late great,
and the
late great Hannibal Lecter. He was winning when he was talking about the late great Hannibal Lecter.
Yeah.
So that's the platform. That should be the platform.
I recommend. Yeah, we're not gonna tell him what to do, but battery sharks.
Questioning what people's diversity. Go back to Hannibal Lecter.
Oh, definitely. battery sharks. That's some winning stuff.
That
right
was
there.
winning. He was winning.
I know.
He was winning when he was talking about sharks and Hannibal Lecter.
And how good looking he is. Much better looking.
I probably talk about that. Like, I'm better looking than Kamala. Like, again, what man walks around and is like, see that woman? I'm better looking than her.
Yeah, it's a bizarre, and it goes
bizarre.
right to him. I'm an old Lincoln Project guy too, and we figured that out. You get in his head, and it bounces in that empty head. It's like an echo chamber, isn't it?
Kamala and Tim are definitely in his head. There's no doubt about that.
And that's a great place for us to see, I think, for me as a Democrat especially, is like, we are in that. And you've been doing this for a while. You've figured that out. And I gotta tell you, not to blow smoke up your ass, but I think, Leader Jeffries and you guys, you came in with a very different offensive nature this last 2 years, and you've kind of kept them at bay in a lot of ways. And that's because you guys have figured out how to do that offense, haven't you?
Yeah, and I give credit to Hopium Jeffries. I mean, he saw when the Republicans put that oversight committee together, he realized that he needed to put together a committee of people to go and deal with that on TV.
Yeah.
Right? He's the one who put us all together, with Jamie Raskin obviously being the ranking member, and then put the whole team together. And so that success goes to not just the ranking member, Jamie Raskin, but to Hopium Jeffries.
Well, I appreciate it. I know you're a lot busy, so thanks for your time.
And this was great.
Good.
And by the way, I'm not standing on a box. This is naturally the same
towering
height.
Over me.
Naturally the same height.
Now, I had the privilege to hang out with Wes Moore. Now, if you know Governor Wes Moore, I mentioned in my introduction, he is the governor of Maryland. He is a great veterans advocate. Before he was the governor, I had the privilege to get to know him a little bit. Before that, he's written an incredible book. I saw Wes speak at a kickoff party for the creators. I saw his incredible speech during the convention. But even better, I got to watch him speak at yesterday's last Veteran and Military Family Council. And these, the way the Democratic Party works is there's caucuses and councils that advise the party on the policies and the platforms they should go, as well as helping candidates run for office. VMF, as they call it, the Veteran Military Family, is one of the council. You may know the co-chair, Turon Sims. He was actually on the show just last week. His co-chair is a woman named Sue Hopium, who's a military family member. And they had one of their meetings, and I got tipped off that Wes would be there, so I go in there. So this is Wes, a little bit of clip of Wes's speech on the importance of supporting veterans and how the Democrats do that.
And I want to thank this team for making sure that it happens. And I want to thank not just the Vice President and not just Governor Walz, but for saying that in this time, in this administration, as we push forward, when we welcome a Harris-Walz administration into Washington, that us, our families, and our issues will be top of mind. And I'm excited for the fact that we got one of our own that's about to be the next Vice President of the United States. I've been having this conversation with a lot of folks who are not in the military. And they're like, so explain to me what a sergeant major does. How important is a sergeant major? And I said, look, well, first of all, let's be clear. It's less than 1% of the NCO Corps. Not to mention the fact for all of us, I finished as an 03. And I kind of have to explain to people when they're trying to understand kind of the ranking system. And I said, let's be clear. If you see a unit that runs well, it's because of their senior NCOs. All right? If you see an officer that has a good OER, like I had pretty good OERs. That is exclusively because my senior NCOs made sure I had good OERs. Let's be clear about the way that this works. And I think about someone who understands what it means to take care of their folks. For 24 years, someone who put on the uniform. Same ones we wore. with the same flag on his shoulder, with the same focus, making sure that us and our families, just like he did when he was a senior NCO, that his folks and his families were okay. It's exciting to think that we're going to have someone like that who's not just helping to drive our policy, but who's helping us to remind ourselves of our moral obligation. Because you all are the ones who voluntarily chose to raise your hands. You're the ones who had family members who voluntarily chose to raise your hands. And to do something that less than 1% of our population is willing to do. People who understand that freedoms are not free. And they must be protected.
You can see he's a great speaker, great opportunity to hear from him. I got a chance to talk to him offline. Fascinating points and to be made everywhere there. And it was a really, really good speech and a really good week. Interesting enough, that same meeting, there was a woman named Busy Phillips. You know Busy Phillips? She's an actress. She's appeared in a lot of great TV shows, but she's also a hardcore advocate for the Democrats, for progressive values, for a woman's right to choose her health care. I had the opportunity to grab her in the hallway. This interview is a bit of a mess. We literally kind of got dragged out of a room and said, here, talk to Busy. I may have geeked out. I don't know. But Busy Phillips and I had a chance to talk about how important it is to support veterans and how important it is, the choices, and a little bit about how she got involved in politics in the first place. So here's Busy Phillips in the hallway at the McCormick Place Convention Center. Great having you come talk to the veterans.
Thank you.
You know our community, obviously. So what drives you to make all these rounds and talk about these issues? You seem pretty motivated about this campaign all of a sudden, don't you?
All of a sudden, honey.
I know.
Honey, abortion has been,
high,
I mean, listen, we're all riding this high, but like obviously post-Dobbs and even pre-Dobbs, I've been like very active in a lot of different issues.
Yeah.
I was a surrogate for Hillary, honey, back in the day.
Yeah.
But I will show up for the Democrats because the Democrats show up for us.
Yeah.
And really what I said in there is true, is that I really resent the Republican Party continuing to try to take ownership over patriotism and the military as if they ever show up and support them in the administration at the policy level.
Right.
Like, Democrats are really the ones that show up and are like, let's make your life better.
Yep.
Let's take care of mental health. Let's talk about mental health with our veterans. Let's make sure we can pass policies that are, look, what, Biden and Harris were able to pass.
Yep.
And,
Exactly.
and sign into
A million
action.
veterans now back on the rolls.
Correct.
There's less than 16 million of us surviving right now. That's a significant number of veterans have added to the rolls. I had a conversation with Tara on my show just last week about how much policy has affected our veterans coming through Democrats.
Yeah.
And that's the truth.
It is the truth.
Yeah.
It is the truth. And I feel like patriotism is for all of us.
Yep.
It actually isn't for just one party. It's not even just for the Democrats. I'm saying it is like we're all allowed to have it and also support our troops. And troops are allowed to be whatever, vote however they want to vote. But I always say, vote in your best interests.
That's it. All right, who's going to take care of it in the end? And I think that's one of the big things I do in my work is pushing that, make sure my peers in the veteran community know these are the guys who passed this law for you. I mean, when they turned down the PACT Act the first time, they high-fived.
Right.
Remember that? So I think you're right. Well, we appreciate you supporting our community.
Thank you.
It's like every community. If you don't have allies outside who can come in and help us, we're never going to survive. So thank you.
Well, thank you.
I appreciate
because you're doing the work.
Yeah.
You're out there. And you did the work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's good for it. I mean, I got college education,
Exactly.
got healthcare. So appreciate
And that's why my dad went to college after the Navy. That was it.
My dad was a Marine in World War II, got the GI Bill, first one to go to college, met my mom, baby boomer kids.
There you
and
go.
I'm a Gen Xer, and here we are. So
Gen X, guys, we are the best.
Right? Isn't it great to have a Gen X candidate?
Yes.
You're claiming her, right? Anyway, I took her right away. As soon as
Well, she is, right?
She's on the cusp.
I'm also on
Look,
the cusp.
we're not
I'm on the
gonna say it.
lower cusp. I am.
I'm senior.
Sometimes I try to pretend like I am a millennial, but I'm not.
Senior Gen X.
Okay, well, I'm a baby Gen X.
Okay, we'll take it.
But I'm really just a baby Gen X.
It works for me.
Yeah. Okay. Great. It was so nice to meet you.
Thank you so much. And one of the most fun things that happened was our friend Simon Rosenberg, Mr. Hopium. He had his very first Hopium in-person event and invited me, which was a privilege to go, and it ended up being a cocktail reception. I walked in, Simon gave me a big hug. We finally saw each other, got a picture together in person. And we were talking, and he said, hey, have you met Sean Astin? I'm like, Sean Astin? I want to meet Sean Astin. Yes, I've been wanting to meet Sean Astin since day one. Not just because he looks just like me. I mean, when he did the Indiana vote on the roll call night, I had people texting me saying, why are you with Indiana? So anyways, I said, yeah, I want to meet Sean Astin. So sure enough, I go, I find Sean Astin. I walk up to Sean Astin, he says, it's like looking in the mirror. And so we started talking. Fascinating gentleman. Hard worker, has been working hard for the Democrats. He's been on a 6-state tour to raise money for the Harris Waltz campaign and was here at Simon's event. Here's a picture of me and Sean. You can say we look like twins, brothers from another mother, which is a little weird for both of us. We're even built the same way, kind of squatty. I guess I'm built like a hobbit, which isn't really news if you know me. Anyway, but hey, I want to show you a little bit of what he said in his speech, and it relates because he talked about the values of all people, Samwise Gamgee, and how that can guide who we are as people when we talk about service. Here's him, Samwise Gamgee himself, Sean Astin.
I also am known in some parts as Samwise Gamgee. Yeah. The thing about Samwise Gamgee that I think touches people's hearts so much is that he lived his life in service. He was in service of Frodo. He was in service of the mission. He was in service of protecting the Shire. When you're someone like Kamala Harris, who is so charismatic, so eloquent, so capable, so strong and fierce with your oratory, those Senate grillings were such a like drop of water in a desert. Kavanaugh and all that, but anyhow, for her to spend 3.5 years in terms of the national conversation, relatively silent, in support, that servitude is hard. It's hard to be quiet for someone like that, but she was on the learn, she was in the support, and she is ready. And I can't wait to watch her get out there with her fire like she did last night from Milwaukee, that simulcast. How brilliant was that? Brilliant. So, 77 days? 78 days, something like that? 76 days. The meter is running. The meter is running. It's going to go by in a blink. So there is no time, and we have to breathe. Make sure you sleep. Drink a lot of water.
Sleep when we're dead. Sleep when we're dead.
Flesh and blood human beings, and we have to protect ourselves. But continue, please, to do everything that you are doing and more. And I will go far and wide and tell the story of Hopium. The wind and the money beneath the wings of Democrats up and down the ticket.
Well, he was followed by our friend Simon Rosenberg. And Simon got up and talked about the hopium we feel and the wave we feel and how the hard work is far ahead of us still. I love the opportunity for you guys to see a little bit of what it was like. This is how a lot of the events were. People standing on chairs, talking, people standing on tables, talking to gathered people. And here's Simon at his event just yesterday afternoon, or was it Wednesday afternoon? It's a blur. Here we go. But here's Simon offering some of his patented, trademarked hopium for the crowd.
She was one of my national co-chairs. And when we had the DNC meeting in Sacramento, she campaigned with me for the day. And she was just a district attorney at that time. But she was powerful and amazing even then, 20 years ago. And when she called me a few weeks ago, and we talked about the election before the change happened, and we had a 30-minute conversation about the election, and I said, Madam Vice President, the most important thing I can say to you is when you think of the campaign to come, do you want to think of 2,000 kids in field offices in the 7 battleground states, or do you want to think of your campaign as 2 to 3 million people on your team working side by side, going out and winning this election together? She said, I'd rather take 2 to 3 million people, is what she said. And I said, well, we can build that kind of campaign. That campaign is there. And what's happening right now, for those of you who've been Hopium followers, is that we're having the election that we all thought, or the election that we all wanted to have. Yeah. This was the election that we knew was possible, but it's happening now, right? We've seen a 6-point shift in the polls. Kamala's leading in the polls. We are doing better in the battleground. fundraising, she raised $500 million in the first 4 weeks. They signed up 200,000 volunteers in the first 10 days that she became the candidate. We are in the process of building the most powerful grassroots army the Democratic Party has ever had. We're now winning in social media after struggling in social media. This convention is not only doing well on television, but on social, right? In this new world that we have the campaign's been unleashed. And as Rob Flaherty said, who's the deputy campaign manager for digital, I'm just letting the Gen Z kids go, and they're getting it done. And all of a sudden, we feel strong and powerful, and he feels small and weak and weird and extreme and all these things that he is.
Loser.
And what's important, and I think, and a loser, right? And I think that somebody said this the other day, that for the first time in 9 years since he came down the escalator, Donald Trump is not the main story in American politics.
Yep.
Right? Kamala Harris is the main story. Governor Walz is the main story. The Democratic Party.
Yeah. So, what was it like being there? Well, I got swag. Got a lot of swag. It was an incredible week, and I can't thank the Democratic National Convention organizers and the DNC and the Harris campaign, by the way, for inviting us, regular creators and hosts and independent journalists to join them in Chicago to give us press credentials, allowing us to have the run of the building for stopping and saying hi to Harry Dunn or Governor Newsom or John Fusgang. I got a couple of pictures actually. Here's me meeting Doug Jones on the way out the building. I finally met my internet hero Tiziant. So many more. I could literally just do a collage of photos of cool people I met. Billy Ray. There's so many. John Fugelsang, I mentioned him already. Just so many people I got a chance to meet, say hello to, fellow creators. That opportunity alone was so worth it. We did pay our own way. I think the Republicans at one point were saying that, trying to say that we all Republicans were accusing us of being paid by the DNC to be there. We were not being required to say certain things. We definitely were not that. No, we were just given press badges and opportunities. Organizations threw parties for us, so we did get some cool parties and more swag. But it was really just the opportunity to be there, to talk to the attendees, watch the events unfold, feel the excitement and momentum. It is real, folks. We are winning, and the Republicans have nothing to do. That's why I didn't show. I didn't show any Republican clips except that one of Donald Trump. The hope I feel, the momentum I feel, the joy I feel was incredible. Seeing Pink sing with her daughter was heartbreaking. It just, Stevie Wonder. I was actually on the floor for Tim Walz's speech. I got to be on the floor of this arena for Tim Walz's speech. Matter of fact, here's a couple of pictures of me on the floor as Tim spoke. Incredible experience. So I hope you could see, if you go to my social media accounts, especially my Twitter account, you'll see a lot of pictures. You'll see photos of what I experienced and some videos and my perspective on all of it. But it's an incredible week. It'll be interesting to see what the polls do now, because I got to tell you, people are going to make up their minds quickly now. We have about 75 days left. We are winning. If we do it together, if we never give up hope and we keep fighting, we will win. As Tim likes to say, as Coach Tim likes to say, Coach Waltz, we can sleep when we die. So I plan to sleep tonight, get some rest, see my fiance, and then get back to work tomorrow. And that's all we can do. Hope you enjoyed this little slice of clips and perspective on what I experienced at the DNC last week. I know it's a lot. You guys, we are winning this. So let's keep up the fight, and I'll see you next week at our regular time with a regular show right here in the Midas Touch Network. See you next week.